someone who has trained both men and women to be combat pilots, retired Air Force pilot Bill Hensley. Bill, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you for having me.
The concern here is that women won't be able to meet the rigid training requirements as men. A lot of that has to do with the muscle fatigue, that they're not capable of staying with men in a combat situation role when it comes to the muscle fatigue area. What's your thoughts?
That's a great way to bring that up. 37 years ago, women were allowed to fly this aircraft. That's when they started. This is a supersonic T-38, and 30 years ago, I trained women to fly this aircraft. My job was to prepare, train, and evaluate instructor pilots in this aircraft. And as a young Air Force captain, 25 years old, I had my doubts of whether a woman could do what I was so proudly doing on a daily basis. But as an evaluator, I soon discovered that they could do it not only as well as I could, but many times even better. And in fact, the highest evaluation score that I ever gave to any pilot during my entire time as an instructor, I gave to a woman.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people would be surprised that women have been flying these planes in combat for more than 30 years.
Well, women have been flying these planes for approximately 37 years. In combat, it took about another 20 years, about in the mid-90s or so, until they were allowed to fly them in combat.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what impact this has, because numbers show that of the 1,200 combat jobs that were open to women last year, only 113 women volunteered for them. How do you see this changing the demographics of the front line?
Oh, I tell you, I think it's going to change dramatically. Just like this aircraft broke sound barriers, but what it did more importantly is break gender barriers. Mm-hmm. And I think this decision of the Secretary of Defense is going to start changing the mindset of a lot of people. And just as it did now, it's pretty commonplace to see a woman fly a supersonic jet. I think the same thing is going to happen. It may even be, it's like a generational shift. And I think that the young people of today are going to end up growing up imagining how could it be that women were at one time prohibited from combat roles.
But when we are talking about actual boots on the ground for women in a combat role, and a woman is ordered to carry out either a wounded soldier or a soldier who has been shot and killed, physically carry that soldier out of the combat zone, will she be able to do that?
Excellent question. Let me ask you to think of one thing. We have women firefighters, we have women police officers, we have extraordinary women athletes. Just by watching the Olympics, you're stunned by the accomplishments of these world-class athletes. Think about any of those individual women put in that situation, and I can tell you they can not only do the minimum standards, but they can excel and flourish. And I can guarantee you that as long as the standards are not compromised, which is a big thing that you hear everybody talking about, the standards not being compromised, the women that are put in those positions are going to do exceedingly well.
Well, no doubt this will be a huge change in military tradition for us here in the United States, but other countries have embraced women on the front lines for years. Australia, Canada come to mind.
Israel, what an outstanding example. That's right. It's been done. I mean, in fact, as you know, women have been on the front lines of combat by accident or because there's not a clearly defined front line in a lot of the skirmishes or wars that we're fighting now. Women are, in fact, in combat right now. This is just going to certify it and let all of us show, and it's going to give young women the opportunity to reach for those dreams and to do those kinds of jobs that they want to do, just as they did when they got in the cockpit of these airplanes.
Mm-hmm. Well, time will tell, certainly. All right,
well.
Bill Hensley, retired Air Force pilot, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.